everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Prinoot of the European server playing in their T95 FV4201, aka the Chieftain. So this video is going to be, well, firstly, a celebration of the fact that Prinoot has an incredible game, but also a discussion about whether Wargaming have nerfed the Chieftain enough. So for everyone who's been hiding under a rock for the last few months, or maybe just getting back into World of Tanks around this time of year, which I totally understand that there are seasonal players who come back for Wargaming's Christmas content, which I guess is just quite a lot of loot crates, really, for a lot of it. But there's also a lot of really cool things that Wargaming do around this time of year. Wargaming finally nerfed the Chieftain and the 279E, as well as the VZ55 and the 268 version 4 in a big patch in September, I believe it was, or late August, update 1.22. And 1.22 made massive changes to this vehicle in particular. Firstly, Wargaming added 1.5 seconds to its reload, so its damage per minute went from being a very healthy 2,500 down to 2,200. So still not awful damage per minute. 2,200 is definitely not special anymore for this vehicle, which means that it can't really make those ridiculous trades. Like, for example, against an M103, it has pretty much the same rate of fire as an M103, but it just has the extra 40 alpha damage. It can even, most likely, considering the kind of equipment that most Chieftain players use, squeeze in 2 shells. So that's doing 880 damage for receiving kind of like 400 from what is a high DPM tier 9. So now the Chieftain has to think about whether it can manage to make that second shell work with its increased reload, now with a base reload time of 12 seconds, whereas previously the base reload time on this tank was 10.5. In addition to that, Wargaming nerfed the top speed limit of this tank from 46 down to 40, which was massive, because 46 is ridiculous for a heavy tank, right? And when you put a turbo on that, then you're bombing it along at 50, which allows this thing, which is quite low profile to begin with, to be able to get into a position and use by far its strongest point, which is its turret. As long as this tank is using its gun depression, its weak point, which isn't really even that big on top of the vehicle, is pretty much hidden, and nothing can be able to deal with this. And so then it allows it to use its 120mm main armament with immunity against the enemy tanks. So the fact that now it can't really rush into position quite as quickly, or at least, here's the big thing. Previously, players who maybe didn't use a turbo will now invest and use a turbo on this vehicle to be able to get the speed that they lost. That's what a lot of these nerfs do on these kind of tanks, is that they make it so that you have to sacrifice a piece of equipment to be able to keep that vehicle as good as it was previously, which is good balancing on a vehicle. For example, I think Wargaming should consider the problem with view range inside World of Tanks, that heavy tanks these days, when was the last time you saw a heavy tank using coated optics towards the upper tier of the game? That's because Wargaming just put in a field mod where now all heavies, once they've got that field mod, get 3% extra view range. So now, if you've got 380 or 390 base view range in a heavy, once you've got all the field mods, even without a premium consumable, you're kind of packing like 450 meters view range anyway. So who in their right mind would invest in coated optics on any map, even, you know, your Prokhorovka and your Malinovka, when you could be investing in something else, such as even vents on the vehicle, which will make everything better about the tank, while also increasing your view range, or putting it into something like an aiming device that we see Prinoot using here. That takes the 0.35 accuracy of this vehicle and turns it into more of a sniping tank. And you'll see that their reticle ends up being very small for what you would expect for a mid-accuracy heavy. In addition, Wargaming also nerfed the traverse speed of this vehicle down to 28, whereas previously the traverse speed on this tank was 33, which definitely impacted it significantly with being able to just be nimble, play more like a medium tank. Wargaming didn't touch the power to weight ratio of this vehicle though, which is 16 2/3 horsepower per ton, which is kind of like a slower medium, undoubtedly, but definitely a faster heavy tank. So this thing still shifts. And when you've got players like Prinoot who are obviously very good and competitive and take part in all of the events, they have fancy pieces of equipment like the Bond Turbo here that you can only get for participating in special events. I think the last time you could get the Bond Turbo was either from Wargaming's anniversary, which to be fair wasn't really a special event, but you got the bond turbo from participating in like ranked or onslaught, and wargaming effectively force you to play those game modes if you want to continue to make your vehicles special, which, let's be honest, a lot of people want to, right? So I love this play by Prinoot. They reload a high explosive round. Not only will that allow them to keep an AP round for later on, but it will also mean that they guarantee the T95 to go down to being a one-shot for the next shell. If they didn't load an HE shell there, which they actually low-rolled, because this tank does have 530 alpha, which they low-rolled for 465, to all intents and purposes, they could have low-rolled that AP shell as well, and if they'd only done 300 damage, then they wouldn't have been able to finish off the T95 with 2 shots. So that shows you that even though the damage per minute on this vehicle has been nerfed through good use of game mechanics like Prinoot, the better players will still be able to adapt to the situation. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, oh, because he used intuition that it doesn't matter that it's lost 6 kilometers an hour and it's lost its rate of fire. That's not what I'm trying to suggest. What I'm saying is that great players play tanks like this. The reason why this tank has great statistics is not just because the vehicle's incredible itself. It's because you've got monster players like Prinoot playing with all of the advantages in this tank. So Prinoot, earlier on in this game, played quite a slow role to start off with, wanting to not jump in too early and just trying to work the ridge lines, which is where this vehicle is special after all. However, now Prinoot's really going to turn it up. With 1,200 tracking on the VK, which the FV405 gives them a thumbs up as they put an AP round. And now Prinoot has found that Jagdtiger, who looked like they were AFK, has now actually got a couple of kills and is turning their attention towards Prinoot. And unfortunately, they finish off the FV405. But that should allow Prinoot to put 2 shots in, but it's going to be close. The Jagdtiger almost has the same rate of fire as Prinoot here, and he's using the well-angled side armor on this tank to bait the Jagdtiger, who actually, I think, didn't shoot at the side plate, aimed for the lower plate on the left-hand side of the vehicle, and actually missed and hit the tracks. And just like that, Prinoot puts 4 rounds in back-to-back, now making it so that Prinoot is up to a very healthy 5,400 damage. So, interestingly enough, Prinoot actually got an invite from Seba Wu to a platoon. I guess because they felt like they had some camaraderie there with the VK. However, Prinoot's probably not going to accept that one because there's no opportunity to get a Brothers in Arms medal. You can actually use the dynamic platoons inside the game to be able to get yourself cheeky Brothers in Arms medal. It's an interesting decision there by Prinoot to not load an HE shell. I would have probably loaded an HE shell there to guarantee the destruction of the Lorraine. However, with 440 alpha, that would be a pretty bad low roll if you only roll for 300, if you roll for less than 390, right? So Prinoot, even though they started slowly, is really now starting to pump up a good game. They got 4 kills, there are 5 tanks left on the enemy team, and Prinoot's team is, well, it's an artillery, a crippled VZ51, and a Conway that's on full health. Beautiful play there, Prinoot, using the fantastic 10 degrees of gun depression that this tank has to finish off one of the more dangerous tanks on the enemy team, with I think the 3rd highest damage per minute in the game. It's the STRV-103B. Now Prinoot needs to consider making a flanking play here on the M103 in the Lorraine. Now Prinoot, I believe, had all of these vehicles inside their render distance, and so the hit points that they have is the hit points that they're going to have, if you know what I mean. Because if tanks are outside your render distance, their hit points aren't updated to your game. So interestingly enough, the artillery is doing great communication here. The artillery is telling Prinoot to fall back and not go in against the M103. And Prinoot gives him a thumbs back to let him to agree to the artillery. I'm just going to hold this M103 in this position. Prinoot bounces one of his gold rounds off the M103. And if you think that Prinoot is using regular rounds here, by the way, I'd hate to break it to you, but a lot of Chieftain players only load gold. And Prinoot is no exception to that, wanting to sweat in one of the most sweaty tanks in the game. So with the M103 stun, Prinoot will definitely have the rate of fire advantage here. Still goes for the weak point on top. I think that's a misplay. I think Prinoot should have tried to flank the side of the M103 to be able to guarantee finish him off, because he will have the better reload, because the stunning will be able to impact the M103's reload by about 25%. But nevertheless, Prinoot bounces the M103, secures the frag on the tier 9 American Heavy, and now they're up to 7,000 damage dealt, as well as 1,800 assistance. Unfortunately, the Leopard 1 Arslan on the enemy team manages to find the artillery and shuts down any opportunity for Prinoot to have some support fire from a self-propelled gun. the final word from the artillery is defend the base, which is a pretty good call because they're most likely going to be there. So Prinoot clutch shots into the Lorraine with great accuracy, and an interesting decision for Prinoot to not use vert stabs on this tank, but just to focus on accuracy. But every player has their own playstyle, and the Chieftain just chilling on a ridgeline and sniping it out. This is a pretty darn good decision for Prinoot now, as they finish off the Lorraine 50T, a vehicle that I wouldn't recommend anyone spends their battle pass points on. As we're starting to reach the end of the season, do not waste your points on the Lorraine 50T, YouTube. But I'm sure there's going to be a couple people in the YouTube comments, actually, QB, I've bought the Lorraine 50T and I think it's the most fabulous vehicle. No, there won't be. There won't be. There's going to be one now who's going out of their way to do it, right? Okay, I digress. Let's focus on what is happening. And that is that Prinoot has a Conway that's on half hit points, and the enemy team have planted the flag inside Prinoot's base, saying, come at me, bro. And I think they're going to be a little bit shocked that the Chieftain is still fast, with a turbo still chonking along at 45-46 kilometers an hour, and with that really good angled side armor. It is very good for baiting. Whoa, talk about being baited. Prinoot nearly got baited into getting hit by that Leopard now, and with only 35 seconds left, maybe that tracking shot is going to stop Prinoot from being able to get back to interrupt the cap circle. We'll have to see. Also, now Prinoot is going to be spotted on their approach, and the Leopard finishes off the Conway. The Leopard doing some fantastic job there, and now Prinoot's got 20 seconds to be able to interrupt. But let me finish what I was saying. Do you notice on the Chieftain how this part is angled there? That's why you can over-angle the Chieftain and get away with absolute murder on this tank. Talk about murder. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Oh, Prinoot leaving it to the last few seconds there, and successfully interrupts the cap circle as they now begin their 1 versus 2. Great shot into a CS63 called Happy Joe, who has confirmed 4 frags this game. Oh no, the Leopard comes around the corner. Prinoot turns their vehicle, and even with the reduced traverse speed of this vehicle, they're still able to get their armor around to bounce the Leopard. They follow it up with a ram on the Leopard, pushing their damage to over 9,000, and also securing a Radley Walters medal. But Prinoot's job is not done. With 8 remaining gold shells in the vehicle and a couple of HE shells, they only have to put 1 into Old Happy Joe to see whether they're not going to be happy anymore. Did I just call Happy Joe old? I mean, he's Happy Joe 83, which strongly would suggest to me that they were born in 1983, which is 7 years before me, making Happy Joe most likely 40 years old, unless he's born in the latter part of November or December. That's kind of scary, thinking that soon QuickyBaby's going to be approaching 40. Talk about approaching 40. This game isn't going to live to be 40, and that's because it's only got a couple of minutes left. Prinoot tried to sneak in, and Happy Joe holds the position. So Prinoot is going to play this one ultra tight right now. And I love how Prinoot has played this entire battle. Even with 700 hit points, they're not taking a risk to look like an idiot. They've managed to destroy over half the enemy team, but there's still one more hurdle, one more happy hurdle that they must get over if they want to be able to take down what will be one of the most epic carries I've seen in a Chieftain to date. 9,000 damage here, 1,700 assistance. This is 11,000 combined, but Prinoot has to just put one more shell in to secure this. And with a CS63, it's a fast tank. It could be anywhere right now. Interestingly, Prinoot still is placing their bets on the CS63 being in the same position. 1 minute left. The sirens sound. The plays must be made. And Prinoot now going to get forwards into some bushes, still hoping that the CS63 is going to be in this position. Now they're looking to the right, thinking maybe they've managed to go up towards the high ground. They get spotted. You can see the flinch to make them think that they're going up towards the right, but no, the CS63 is still in proxy spotting distance, and Prinoot needs to just come around the corner. The CS63 fluffs their shell, and Prinoot doesn't choke, securing the battle for their team. And 9 kills, 9,000 damage, 1,700 assistance with the nerfed Chieftain. This thing still absolutely slaps when it is in the hands of an absolute gamer like Prinoot. So Prinoot smashes an ace tanker. This was 1,640 base experience. The Radley Walters medal for the 9 kills. The Defender medal for protecting the base. the high caliber for that, over 9,000 damage, and a steel wall for blocking enough damage to destroy this tank 2 times over. The only thing that I don't like many Chieftain players, Prinoot only spams gold, resupplies his consumables at full price, so doesn't even make profit with a credit booster. But considering they nearly ran out of ammunition in this hyper carry, every little helps when you're playing this absolute beast. So, the Chieftain nerf. Was it necessary? Yes, I think it totally was. I think that the 279E and the Chieftain totally deserved to be nerfed. And interestingly enough, we can see the results of it. Firstly, that these two tanks are not dominating the matchmaker unlike they were previously. If anyone remembers, in the patches leading up to the nerf, they were becoming more and more popular, with people just taking these overpowered toys out on the battlefield to be able to crush everybody's dreams. I don't know how you felt, but since the nerfs, I haven't seen nearly so many 279Es and Chieftains about in the matchmaker, which has been a really enjoyable experience for me. But interestingly enough, these vehicles, even with the nerfs, they still have the second and the third best win ratio of any tier 10 heavy tank in the last 30 days, with the Chieftain getting, on average, 56% to the nearest percentage. But using Tomato GG's win rate differential, we can see that the Chieftain has the second best win rate differential as well. So it's not just a case of overpowered players playing this still very good tank. They're still strong, they're still boosting up the average win rate of all of their owners. And I think that Wargaming did a fantastic job in adjusting the statistics of this tank. It still looks, at least with a performance like Prinoot, that is very powerful and fun to play, and the statistics show that it's still getting the second highest damage of any tier 10 heavy tank, and that its win rate difference hasn't dropped by much at all. So the next question is does Wargaming need to do more to the Chieftain to bring it more in line with other vehicles? Well, I feel like with the amount that there are in the matchmaker right now, it's not the biggest of deals. They probably could go a little bit more, but is this tank absolutely destroying the matchmaker anymore? Definitely not so much. A passing mention should be made is I actually forgot one of the nerfs to this tank, and that was that they reduced the gold pen by 11 from 322 to 311, which means that they can't just sit there and spam gold so easily at thicker armor. However, it definitely didn't stop Prinoot from penetrating the vast majority of shells this game and electing to only fire gold, right? So Prinoot, congratulations to you on this monster game, even with the nerf to the Chieftain. Thank you so much for uploading it onto the What Replays website for the community to enjoy. I know I thoroughly did, and I really hope all of you out there enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know what you think about the Chieftain nerf now that we've had it for a couple of months. Do you think it's improved the matchmaker massively? Do you think it's destroyed the vehicle and you absolutely hate it now? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.